So today we are going to talk about different lead sources. Do they create different lead quality?
Yeah.
Right.
That is a hell of a way to kick it off.
It's funny because we just had one of our salespeople in here, and she was asking, "Is there a way we can add different qualifiers to different leads?" And blah 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 blah. So, appropriate topic. Yeah, where to begin?
The age-old question, and I think that in the salesperson part of us, everything wants to be as efficient as possible. Like if I could get 10 leads and get 10 face-to-faces and get 10 closings from that, that'd be perfect. That's what I'm looking for.
Right.
Right. But you go out and try and find that anywhere, and it's going to be like trying to find Loch Ness.
You can't do that with your own family. Talk to 10 of your family members. One of them is going to do business with someone else. 100%.
I've had that experience. Thanks, sis. Funny. Anyway,
That's what I'm here for.
right? Yeah, I think it's a good topic because I think that most agents are looking for that holy grail, right? It's the same thing from like a buyer's perspective. They're always looking for this inventory that they don't get access to. Like in the customer's mind, they're always thinking, well, the real estate agents gobble up all the good deals. They get, if I was a family member or if not, and it's a good thing to be able to leverage, right? For yourself as an agent, play off of what really that secret conversation in their mind is going off of. By communicating that, I'm going to get you access to all the things that are out there, right? Including the off-market properties, It's a way to differentiate and decommoditize yourself, because most people are like, you want me to do a search for you on the MLS? No, I just did that, right? Like that's how we're talking. At least that's what they think.
Yep.
So from a lead standpoint, I think if you back up to like a 10,000 foot view, and this is what I try to tell people all the time, like, what is a lead, right? If we had 100 agents, we get 100 different answers. But the reality is leads are human beings, period, right? I hate even the word lead. I remember one time I was at Home Depot and I was looking for like windows, and the dude wrote my name up on the board under the word lead. And I was like, like that, nope. I'm not trying to be a lead, like, dude, I'm just trying to get some windows.
Right.
Yeah. So leads are human beings, and they're trying to find information about a problem that they're trying to find a solution to. Right. And so I think that is where things have kind of got screwed up with the age of the internet, because prior to the internet, right, a lead was somebody that you talked to, somebody that met at a cocktail party, or somebody that was referred to you from a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny to go back and look at, like, if you read old sales books, you have all these different names for things. Like at Northwestern Mutual, for us, we had like a prospect was somebody that was in the far left category, and then once you talked to him and verified that it was a real person, blah 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 blah, and you had an opportunity, then you could call him a lead, right? And it was just like,
and then once you've engaged with them, now they're a client.
Yes,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I think with the internet, one of the things that's happened and it has happened is like a dehumanizing of the people.
Yep.
And so like I'm worried about that for my kid, because he likes to sit on Zoom with his friends and play video games, where there was no way you could get me to do that as a kid. I was out there drinking from the hose, riding my bike, skinning my knees, And so I think that the internet is going to create more of this dehumanization. But for good salespeople, good marketers, if they could bring it back down and say, okay, that's not real. What is real is these are humans and they're trying to accomplish a goal, and my job is to help them accomplish that. I think that's step one when you're thinking about the quality of a lead, right?
Yep.
So the question that I have for you is, with quality, you talk to so many people like, oh, I get leads from X website, they're really good. I get leads from X website, they're really bad.
Oh yeah.
What do you think the biggest problem there is?
So, perception, to be quite honest. It was funny because we were working with a top real estate coach. If I said his name, you'd know his name. And
what is it?
I'm not going to say. But he was looking to do some type of a biz dev deal with us, and he was like, I want my team to vet out the leads. And I'm like, bro, I know some of your stuff. Like, that's not how you roll, but whatever. So, he was having his not his real estate team, some of his people in his organization call through the leads, and he's like, your leads are definitely better. And I was like, I'm flattered, but like, you should know better. You're a marketer,
right?
You know what I mean? So I think that there is this perception out there that some leads are better than others. If we weren't really trying as a company to unlock the potential of the real estate agent to be able to, scale to wherever they want to go, like Babe Ruth, be able to point to a number and then have steps to hit it, we'd probably play off that, be like, oh, ours are the best leads. But it's not true. So I think, number one, any company that ever tells you that is probably at best embellishing and at
Mhm.
worst lying, right? Like, whoa, we have the best leads. Well, how so? What's the difference, right? Do your human beings have 6 fingers instead of 5 on each hand? Like, what's the difference? So I think that fundamentally, the difference that most people perceive is where they're at in their customer journey, right? And so like a lot of people like to get them at the end of their customer journey. And so that's what we were just talking about before we hit, record. And it was, if you look at, for example, a national portal like Zillow or Realtor, what's hot right now is the schedule a showing. Well, if somebody's willing to schedule a showing, that means that they're at the end of their buying journey. And what I have always found is that is the place that's the toughest to compete. And so if you're running your business where you need now business 24/7, 365 every day, you got to get it. You got to go out, get now business, now business, now business. Your problem is you're competing with everybody else in your marketplace because they're all trying to get that too, except for the top maybe 5% of people that are doing the most business. They're not operating like that. They're planting a garden, so to speak. One of the analogies that you gave was like, buying a lead is like buying a banana. Why don't people plant banana trees? Which do bananas come from trees? I don't even know.
That's the educational system in Nebraska.
No banana trees in Nebraska.
Not a
Can't
lot.
break it. But in all seriousness, I mean, that's the thought process, right? So give a person a fish or teach them how to fish. And at the end of the buying journey, yes, it's going to be easier to convert that lead. And your perception is going to be that that's a better lead. But what you don't see is when the lead actually came in. So for a portal like Zillow or Realtor or any of the big name portals, they got that way earlier, right? And so they're getting all this intel on that particular individual. And then they're waiting till the opportune time to pass it off to an agent because that's when they can extract the most revenue. So in that incubation time, what you have are costs that are incurred. So you have to pay a higher price. It's cost plus, right? For that one particular lead. And if you were to take and look at your business like a river, right? Like flowing, like what happens now is going to have an impact downstream. That's the problem. Most people are just now. They're not looking downstream. You're going to pay a lot more money. You're going to always be in scramble mode, and you're always going to be, with this roller coaster of feast and famine, like, oh my God, I'm out of business. I just closed that deal. I have no transactions, right? And it's a shitty place to be. It's a shitty place to live in your mind mentally. And it's really hard to, grow like that.
Yeah. And if you think about it, you were talking, I was just thinking about when I became a lead for Zillow, probably 12 years ago or something.
Yeah.
I downloaded the app. And I've never clicked I wanted to talk to an agent or whatever, but they miss me. You know what I mean? Like I get an insane amount of emails, but I was just thinking this is a writer downer. At some point in our app, like we should probably have activity triggers where people are starting to save a bunch of houses, right? So like you've been looking at houses lately,
Frequently.
you probably have been searching on your apps a lot more frequently. So like there's probably some activity things that could trigger some actions.
Yeah.
But like Zillow doesn't do that at all. Because last time we were buying something, I was saving stuff
Cut
crazy.
I'm gonna cut this out of that. podcast.
They're just
Give me some ideas if
right?
they listen.
Right.
Yeah.
But you think about that, and it's just one of the best things that anybody told me at the very beginning was the only thing that you should be trying to do on that initial phone call with any lead that you have, strike that out, any human that you have, is just try and find out what their timing and motivation is. Because there's very few times where you're going to change someone's timing and motivation
100%.
because it's life events, it's things that's happening.
Yep.
Wait until a kid graduates from high school to downsize or whatever it is, job moving, whatever. Like it's hard to change that. Like a really good deal isn't going to change somebody's time and motivation very often.
Yeah.
So just know what it is, have a process to file that away to a 2-year down the road thing. But it's like the focus now. And Kern showed it over and over and over in sessions.
It was a great analogy because he had the bullseye, 30
Yep.
days, 60 days, 90 days, I think was his.
Yep.
Like everybody's focused here in the next 30 days. And that's where all the money's being spent marketing, all the efforts, all the time. Right. And everybody's competing there. You go out one rung and it's a lot less competitors. You go out two and there's like no competitors. And it's just 100% the truth.
I was going over one of our old webinars last week, and we used to have a slide that was like, this is what it's like right now, and it was like a dog chasing some dude that had meat,
Yeah.
and there was like 9,000 dogs behind him,
100%.
and then it was just a wide open ocean for the 97% that
Yeah.
nobody else is trying to go out.
Well, and let's
outside
look
of
at the
3
fundamental
months.
reason why. Why is there nobody there, and why do not more agents do that? I think uh, to begin, when it comes to sales in general, like there's a lack of delayed gratification component, right? So you want instant gratification. You want somebody that's ready, willing, and able to act now. And the problem is where focus goes, energy flows. So if you're focused on that, you don't have time to focus on being in 3-6 months out, right? You just can't, because you're so focused on this all the time.
And real estate's so delayed already.
Oh,
you
my
know what I
God,
mean?
yeah.
You can't make a sale today.
Yeah, no, you got to wait 30-45 days for the closing to occur. Yeah, period. So
And I think that people, the first time they talk to somebody, and then 3 months out, that person does go someone else, they go, oh, those people don't buy. So you just tell yourself the story that if they're not buying now, they're not going to buy from you. And that's false. It's
We had a client recently that we set an appointment for. They called them at the time of the appointment. The person didn't answer. Called them again like 3 times. Continued to try like a couple times a week for like 4 weeks,
Yeah.
and eventually got in touch with them. Double-ended deal, like almost $1 million in volume, just because they stayed in touch, because they got stuff going on. They're trying to buy and sell a house. Like they got a lot of stuff going on.
100%. And we were just talking yesterday to a mega team, that had tons of agents, like 1,000 agents or something. And they're like, that's our biggest bottleneck. Because I was like, what's your biggest bottleneck? And they're like, well, if somebody's moving 3 months out, our agent won't call them in 3 months, because they're just always going after low hanging fruit. So I don't think that this is an industry. I think it's an industry problem.
Yes.
And I think today's consumer demand so much more out of the professionals that they work with. So they expect, if you tell them you're going to call in 3 months, for you to actually freaking do it. It's not their job to call you and be like, hey, I'm ready now. They don't even remember your name, right?
and that builds trust too.
It does. But that's why leveraging a CRM and having systems in your business is so important. If you look at the top mega agents versus the rookies, like you'll find that they've got a system in place and they follow it. They show up for those, follow-up phone calls just as diligently as the average agent would a listing appointment for tomorrow, right?
Yes.
So it's in their calendar, it's marked, it's something that's going to happen, and they don't miss it, because that's earned business that they've already earned, right? And you think about, like, growing something, like it's ripe, it's ready to cut, it's time, right? And so maybe you go out and check it, and okay, it's not quite time. You give them a call, and they're like, oh yeah, actually we're 30 more days out. Oh, cool, no problem. I'll call you in 2 weeks, right? But the problem is just the short-sightedness of now, and being on that commission roller coaster doesn't allow for that for most people. And so the way that you do that is, if you're stuck in that now spot, you got to continue to do that, but then you've got to be kind to yourself in the future, and you got to start planting or growing and ripening a database for that future business. And you got to do both at the same time. So eventually the now business and that focus and that anxiety will start to dissipate over time, because you don't have to do that anymore. Right. And so that's the time. But back to the difference in quality of leads, somebody who's ready to act now is going to be perceived as a better quality lead all day long than somebody who's ready to act in 3 months. But the difference is, there is no better quality between the two.
Right.
It's just one is now and one is later. And here's the kicker: the people who
That's what I was hoping you were going to say before you said all this other stuff, which was the difference.
here's the kicker: the more ripe it gets, the higher the amount you're going to pay.
Yep.
So, like, if you look at a team, right? Like, some teams charge 75% and they pay their agents 25%. How can they do that? It's because of that process that's in place, right? That they've been able to hone to be able to demand that level of money out of that particular lead. Like, hey, you're not really going to have to do much here, right? But the irony is that the team that has that in place, they also didn't do hardly anything, because they've got their systems in place, and they were able to build those systems, and the systems work so they don't have to. And so now it's this massive arbitrage of, I'm getting 75%, you're getting 25, but all you're doing is going, looking at the house and signing a listing agreement, or going and showing 4 houses and, getting the deal, because they're pre-qualified, ready to act now.
Have you heard the quote, like, you don't rise to the level of your habits, you fall to the level of your systems?
Oh yeah.
That's like my favorite thing right now. I'm like, just systemize everything.
I don't know where I heard that very recently. And we used to talk about this, like, putting a fence around your cattle thing. And,
Oh, yeah.
and I used to think
Yeah.
about that, like, in the office in Dallas, we used to, and sometimes you have to trick yourself into like, because the money's not happening, like giving yourself gold stars and attaboys and whatever else for the activity that's going to lead to the money.
Right.
And so we had those little sirens that we used to lead off with the.
Oh, yeah.
I missed that thing. It's still over there. You're welcome.
Yeah.
You had to edit a lot of video where I was.
Yeah, I don't miss that.
So we had 2 of those, and they had remotes, and the ISAs in the office hit those every time they set an appointment, or a listing appointment, or got a nurture. So like we were training our ISAs to be just as excited about a nurture, which was somebody that was saying that they were going to move in the next 12 months, as somebody that said, yeah, you can come out and let's see about listing our property tomorrow. You know what I mean? And just like tricking yourself that they are worth the same amount of money.
It's true.
But it makes it easier because you're branding your cattle. So like letting them graze in your field for 12 months and then getting them in 12 months or 6 months or 3 months or whatever it is. And it's like, then it becomes easier when you go to them because you already have built a relationship. So when everybody else, the hounds, are out trying to get them for the now business, they're like, oh, you're already working with Jake, you're already working with Mike, whatever it is, you know.
100%.
And it's
Especially
so easy.
Especially if you have a system in place where you can make them a promise and the system delivers a process. So you
Ding,
promise,
ding,
so you can get some. What's the term called?
Reciprocity.
Yes, thank you.
And then it compounds because, like, if they're ready to go 12 months, well, 3 months before that, you're going to have people that are ready in 3 months, and 6 months before that, you're going to have people that are ready in 6 months. Like that 12th month should be massive if you're doing everything like you should be doing.
Right, 100%. And again, the problem is delayed gratification. This fallacy of different things produce different quality of leads. It's it's not the lead or that will differentiate you. It's the process in which the lead goes through, right? And so that's the differentiating factor, right? And I was at Dan Kennedy, and that's what he kept saying. He was like, hey, it's not the product that'll differentiate you, it's the process. And it's so true. I used to say that all the time in my real estate business because we all have the same real estate license. Everybody can do the same thing. What makes us different? Well, it's a process that we service our customers through that makes us different, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing when it comes to
I was thinking,
leads.
sorry.
No. It's the same thing when it comes to leads. The difference is the process, because the leads are all the same. They're all human beings. So the process that they go through is the differentiating factor, right? The process of that nurturing. That's it. So where you get them in the process determines how much you'll pay, right?
Yeah.
And it also determines the level of competition that you're going to have in trying to get that person as your client. So again, at the end of the process, everybody's a competition, right?
And brand is how you make people feel. And like, I love seeing people that don't need business right now, how much different they act with people when they get on the phone and they're like, yeah, probably looking to move probably in the next 6 to 8 months, probably once the school year's up, whatever it is. Somebody that's like needing business is like, ugh.
Oh yeah.
Okay, whatever. Call me when you're ready.
Yeah.
These leads suck. Yeah, and then they go to the lead provider. They're like, oh god. And if it's them, they're like, oh, I gotta cancel this. I'll stop running these ads. Whatever. These ads are garbage. Blah, 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 blah. So, versus the person that doesn't need business, be like, okay, cool. So about 6 to 8 months out, this is what I'm gonna do. And just try and add value, right? Like figure out
Make a friend.
How weird. What a novel
Correct me if
concept.
I'm wrong. If you had 8 months to like talk to somebody and market to them and let them get to know you, wouldn't that be a way easier transaction to begin with?
It is.
Like
That's the thing. So the only way to differentiate yourself or decommoditize yourself is to create that relationship early before they have another exposure to another real estate agent.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. Yeah.
We did the math afterwards. Abrams actually had to go back and look at it, and we took every person that we classified as a nurture over the course of the year and went back and looked at the MLS to see who actually sold without us, and it was like over $2 million in commission that we missed out on the people that we had talked to, noted that they were going to do something, and then they ended up doing something with us because we didn't have our systems completely dialed into the follow-up, right? So it was going from the ISAs doing really, really good to going to the agents, and we did not have a really good system into keeping the agents accountable to that activity. So we had to flip it to the ISAs owning that and we made that switch, and it helped a lot. But we had to break down, and we wrote the number on the board, and it was like 2.1, and it was just like, you know what I mean? Like you talk to those people,
right.
Even if you get 10% of that, it's an extra $200,000,
Yeah.
Like, and it's just there if you put, but it's like tracking and knowing what you want to do. And,
Well, and again,
doing the right things.
In the defense of a real estate agent, most agents are D&I personality types. They're not S&C. They're not detail oriented. That's why leveraging technology to make sure that those things come back to you is the only way that you can actually have a system in place. Because if you're relying on yourself, if you're relying on your memory, if you're relying on your stenographer notepad like I used to have, right? It's just not going to freaking happen.
No.
Because, you know, when you're a person that is more interested in the relationship than, you know, the components of a system, you're just going to gravitate towards what you like, and you're gonna fumble the ball over there, you know. And so for me, I was guilty of that, especially in transaction management, you know.
This is not a shameless plug, but one thing that I love about working here is that it's already proven. Like, you don't have to figure out the systems.
Oh,
That's one thing, which is, I think, is success leaves clues.
Yeah.
So like, instead of going out and trying to piece together, like, somebody's going to sit down, listen to this, sell notebook, and be like, I'm gonna send a message this day and this day. Like, don't do that. Just, there's tools out there. Our tools is the best.
Yes,
But
yes, I agree. I agree. Shameless plug indeed.
yeah.
Yeah. You know, because most people don't even know where to start. Like, how do you start building a system?
Yeah.
How do you start building processes around those things? And, you know, I mean, even some of the top agents in the world still have trouble with these things.
Yeah.
Especially follow up after you've closed, you know. Like, I was talking to Reilly, and that's what he was saying. He's like, you know, there could be a case study about me because I've built this massive business and empire out of just internet leads. And he said, you know, but the problem is we don't capture hardly any of our past business because I don't have systems in place for it. So like, even those type of things, just leverage freaking technology for that. click to watch the interview with Ryan Reilly if you want to know more about it. Just put it on the screen, like,
fine
with letters.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. A lot of people just like listen to it.
Oh, okay. Hey, click wherever.
It's a podcast.
Okay. So, you know, back to Dakota. So Dakota walks in, you know, not having the success of last week. And her first question was, did we change something in marketing? And I'm like, yes, we did. We decided, since, you know, we had a stellar week last week, we would just go and get all the crappy clients for this week.
Obviously.
Right. And so, you know, we switched the marketing, and then we also decided to, you know, through a magic crystal ball, make sure that the worst ones came to you as they came into our lead generation system. And so, you know, that's why you're not having the success that you had last week, this week, right?
Which makes sense.
And she's like, based on that, well, do you think that, you know, we could add some pre-qualifiers to the ads? And, you know, my argument with her is the same age-old argument that I always make. If you're trying to catch big fish, you can either have, you know, a bunch of fishing poles with the right bait to catch that particular fish. Let's say it's catfish and you got stink bait on there, right? And you're fishing the channel. Or you can drag a net to the whole channel. You can get every damn catfish and all the other fish too. Which one's going to catch more of the fish you want? She's like, who's catching them all? I'm like, yeah, of course. Right. And it's the same thing with lead generation for real estate agents. So many of them are focused. And I've had this conversation a bajillion times. They're like, we want higher quality leads. I'm like, okay, we can add eliminators to the ad, which are going to make you have less leads. So what's a high quality lead? Well, we only want people who are $500,000 and up. All right, cool. We'll say starting at $500,000 in the ad, that will eliminate people underneath that. 30 days later, they're like, we're not getting enough leads. I'm like, I told you that's what was going to happen because you got an eliminator in there. Which would you prefer? The more leads or the better ones that you wanted? Well, I want to go back to the way it was. Get the more. Okay. That's what I thought. We had this conversation 30 days ago, but you were adamant that this is what you wanted. And, you know, it's the age old argument from anybody who's in sales. That has any type of leads in general. And so, you know, what most agents do is they'll try something, it won't work immediately, and then they'll shrink back, just go back to what they were doing, and then they'll be like, oh, that doesn't work. But the reality is, it wasn't that it didn't work, it's just that you didn't have the right systems in place to make it work.
So in our tracker, we track like when a lead comes in and then when they come on board with us. I'm going to read a few of these in a row. Ready?
Let's go.
Okay.
0, meaning same day the lead came in, they came on board.
Okay.
Love those two.
Yeah.
Action takers.
Let's go.
0035 31 7 176 113 23 2 51 103 days.
Okay.
Right. And the only reason, like, if we left it completely up to
So
salespeople,
to be clear,
without a
that's
system,
the amount of days that they were in our system before they transacted. Okay.
Right. So if you look at that, like the difference, if it was just left up to salespeople, like if you go back to me 12 years ago, like there would be 0 that were over 7 days, right? Because that would just be a turn and burn. New people are coming in. I'm not keeping up with it. But like, we built systems to where they don't even realize what's coming in front of them again.
Yeah.
And we just kind of keep that thing going because we put the system in place to where that can happen. Right. Like if we took that out, we would drop like 20-30%, something like that.
Which is crazy. And that's the thing that most agents are suffering from.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just like a little bit of foresight. Could we do a better job? Absolutely. But we have enough of it to where we're like, oh yeah, right. And
Sometimes good enough is good enough.
sometimes and to be able to get it going, right? And then theory of constraints. I've just been all over that lately.
Yeah.
I keep having things pop up. Like Elon has been talking about it in interviews that I've been watching and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn. Well, regardless of what you think about Elon, he's a smart mofo. So it's
Depends
nice.
on who you ask today.
That's
But
true.
I still believe that. I believe that he's smart as shit.
Yeah. Well, to build as
The
many
hundreds of
companies,
billions of dollars going to indicate he's got something to teach.
it does have some success leaves clues. But he said one of the things that he does for each one of his companies, he starts Monday and he just gets really clear on what's the biggest bottleneck, and then the whole week is just solving that one biggest bottleneck, and nothing else matters. No other meeting matters, no other metrics matters, no other anything matters. He's just trying to solve that one biggest thing.
That's called leverage.
It is.
I like
Right?
that he's like, just leave a meeting if you're not going to benefit from it. I was like, that's gangster.
Yeah, like he's so straight to the point and full of value, whatever. And so, like when you look at your own process, right? Like there is a biggest bottleneck that you need to tackle, and like usually, never, just because if there might be a case once that is actually happening, but usually never is there a situation where the lead quality is your biggest bottleneck.
Boom.
Ever.
Mic drop. Podcast over. No, it's just true. It's just true. I mean, that whole crystal ball thing came from different agents that I would have this conversation with on my team. They'd be like, well, how come so-and-so's closing so many deals? You're giving her all the better leads. I'm like, dude, they get round robined in real time.
Right.
What do you think? I'm like Nostradamus. How would I give you the worst? Do you ever think maybe it's not something external? Maybe it's something internal. Maybe you haven't honed the skills. Oh, I'm using the script. I'm using it the right way. I'm going verbatim by the script. Well, listen to some of her calls and see if maybe she's doing something a little bit different or better. But, I think that there's a certain amount of people out there that just don't want to have accountability to the outcome.
Yes.
They want it to be something external. They want it to be something outside of them.
Well, nobody likes
can-
failing.
They can blame with, yeah, but my take on that is what they said about RFK and the Bay of Pigs. The day that he took ownership of that, he didn't blame it on the military, was the day he became a leader, right? And so, like, if you want to really be successful, if you want to be a leader, one of the things you have to do is take accountability. You have to take responsibility for the outcome, right?
Yeah.
If you don't like the data of what it is that you're getting in, if you don't like, where can you improve? Jake, you've always helped me with that, right? Like, well, I'll have a shitty conversation with somebody and you're like, what could you have done differently? I'm like, nothing, bro. Did you hear what I said that they said? Right? But then I got to reflect on it. I'm like, you know what? I could have done some things differently.
There's always something.
100%. And it's just a good way to live your life. But I think from a business perspective, it's the only way to have long lasting success.
Yes.
Take personal accountability and responsibility.
I just had a conversation with one of our guys here outside, and he's getting frustrated or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's going on? And external. And I was like, okay. Then he finally got to the point where he was kind of self-correcting, because I've had this conversation multiple times. And it was just like, it was funny watching this little epiphany, but it was like, I'm not doing anything different. I'm not. Nothing's changed. I'm just getting a different result. And then I was like, Julian sent us a call in Slack yesterday. Did you get a chance to listen to it? And he was like, yeah, I was ashamed of that call. And I was like, then you're not doing the same thing. Like, you just said that. And then the one call that we've listened to in the last few days, like, we pulled it and you said ashamed is the first thing you took away from it.
Right.
Like, of course, like a lot of
But
things had to change.
At least they're taking responsibility now.
Correct.
And so I think for fundamentally, like, most people, they would much rather have something external to blame it on. But the problem with that is it makes you powerless, right?
Yes.
If it's something outside of you, then you can't control it, and then it's not your fault, and then you're in victim space, and then you're just stuck. Yeah. And so I think that when it comes to implementing something in your business, when it comes to putting a process in place, when it comes to putting something in to really deposit into your future, right? Having the ability to control that, having the ability to know that no matter what happens, if it doesn't work out, there are people that you can go and study. There are people that you can go and learn from that you can change the outcome of what it is you're trying to accomplish. Right now, we've got a big initiative here, and I'm a greenhorn at it. For the first time in a long time, I'm like outside of my depth. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. And one thing's for sure, like, we will nail it. I have zero doubt about that. How, when, who I'm gonna have to hire, who I'm gonna have to study, like those things are unknown. But because other people have done this before, I know it's freaking doable, right? Like there's no question. There's a lot of people having success with this. So there's the only difference between them and me is that they know something that I don't, and I'm trying to close the gap. Right. So like I read a book for the first time in 24 hours. I'm not a voracious reader. I don't like sit there and read all the time. You know, I barely did it in school, you know, but I'm like trying to close the gap that quick on my knowledge gap. And one of the fastest ways to do that is to go hire somebody that's a guru in that particular topic. And let me talk about that just real briefly. You might hire the wrong guy or gal. They might be a pretend guru. Don't let that deter you. Okay. So treat them like a buffet. Go and get what they got. And if you don't like some of the stuff, don't use some of the stuff. But if that didn't work, don't stop. Go in and take an ownership and take a personal responsibility for the outcome until you get there. And I love the fact that we don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? Nope. Yeah, there's people that have lived before us and people who are doing what we want to accomplish right now. I was talking with Cam yesterday, and he was like, I don't have anything that I want. Well, like, dude, how about flying private? He's like, oh, well, that's kind of a crazy thing. I'm like, there are people right now with butts in seats flying over us in private jets. Like, if they can do it, why can't you? Like, let's think bigger, you know?
Right.
Yeah. What makes them so special?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if they can do it, you can do it.
And he's 21.
Yeah.
What I will say for like success too is that we started this new initiative, and it started out rockier than we probably thought it was going to.
For
and
sure.
Didn't have like the instant
Not me.
success.
I knew because my
No, like you were talking about
shortcomings.
earlier, like man, like, oh, what's going on? Like I thought for sure this was the thing, but like I know most people that I know would instantly go, okay, that doesn't work. We're not going to do that anymore. And you're like, no, let's tweak, let's iterate, let's make it better, let's fix it, let's.
I call it getting out the crowbar. I'm going to crowbar my way into this thing, right? Like, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's real estate. I don't care if it's software. I don't care if it's a new marketing thing. Like, I'm going to get to it. I'm going to figure it out, right? Because it's been figured out before.
Right.
I'm not reinventing something. Other people are doing it. And it's the same with leads. There are people in your marketplace right now that are running massive amounts of arbitrage of leads. And so what that means is they've got a crap ton of leads coming in. They're nurturing those leads with their businesses and their systems, right? And then they're handing those leads out to their agents on their team at a 50% split. You know, that's arbitrage. What is it that allows them to do that? It's those systems that they put in place.
Yep.
It's not the holy grail of the lead, right? The lead is the same for them. They don't care. It goes in and it comes out on the other end, a closed deal.
Really is getting 2,000 leads a month. You think he knows which one comes from where?
No.
Not a clue.
But he is a good businessman. He probably does know, you know, which ones are producing higher ROI, you know. But here's the thing: even the one, maybe not. Even the ones that
John probably does.
Here's the way I looked at it: every lead that I generated in my business was one lead less for my competitor. Right? I love the scene on The Founder, right, about Ray Kroc. At the end, he's like, "If my competitor was drowning, I would go over and put a hose in his mouth. Can you say the same?" And so that's the way I thought about leads, right? Yeah, and the McDonald's brothers were like, no, because they were big softies. At least that was the perception that they gave in the movie. I don't know about in real life, but, you know, it was a gangster scene in the movie because he was explaining to them the difference between him and them and why he was walking away with the ownership of McDonald's and they didn't have it.
The gangster capitalism book right behind you makes sense now.
Yeah. So hang on, you're going to make me lose my train of thought. Oh, shit, where was I?
Ray Kroc, soft. You.
One leads. Yes. So every lead that I would generate would be one less for my competitor. So like I would sometimes do things that maybe weren't high ROI, but it was a barrier of entry to my competitor. Do you know the reason why Google has AdSense? And for people who don't know what AdSense is, it's the ability to display ads on your website that are hosted from Google, and they'll pay you a piece of the click revenue for hosting that ad. The reason why they had that was a barrier of entry to a competitor doing the exact same thing. It doesn't make them any money. It's actually like break even or maybe even a little bit of a loss, but it's a barrier of entry to a competitor. And so like so few people think about that and they don't think from that perspective. Like every lead that I generate is one that my competitor isn't, right?
When we were on the road selling this for $1,500 a month,
Yeah.
There were so many people that would come up to me at the table with their little sign-up sheet and their credit card filled out, and they'd be like, I don't know when I'm going to use this, but my top competitor is in the room, so I just want to make sure they don't get it.
I love that. Yeah.
It was gangster.
Yeah, be Ray Kroc. You know what I mean? Like, so there are situations where, okay, maybe the ROI is not as great with this lead source, but at least I know that I'm blocking somebody else from getting it. And my theory in way of doing business is if I can get them into my database, then I can put them through my process and at a minimum, right, have a better chance of getting their business than somebody who tries to use old school methods, right? Somebody who tries to meet them at an open house or cold call prospect or door knock or hope that they see their billboard and then call them, you know, which never happens, by the way.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but if somebody's like, hey, give me $2,000 and you'll make $10,000, even if you have to call 100 people, that still seems like a pretty good deal.
It's a better ROI than drugs.
Well,
Than every stock ever.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. My theory, the way I looked at that was the same thing. Like, how many times can I push that $2,000 in the middle? You know, how many times can I get the $10,000 back and push that in and get the same thing back? Like, because it's just doubling down on what's working, right?
I used to tell people, if you had a magic ATM and you could put in $1 and it magically credited your account $2, how many times would you try to put in $1?
I would sleep in front of an ATM.
Just do,
You know,
Mark's like, I would buy the ATM. I would do nothing but the ATM.
yeah,
replicate the ATM.
seriously.
In more than one.
Call Elon and be like, give me one of those humanoid robots, bro.
I would have a team of people working the ATM.
No, I really would too.
I know.
But, you know,
I
that's
know.
the thing. I would organize it real quick. And when you look at business, you know, in general, when I first realized that like almost all of business is systems, right? It's almost like seeing the code behind the matrix.
Yep.
So I walk into Walmart and I'm like, okay, systems everywhere, right? They got a system for the greeter. They got a system for inventory. They got a system for restocking. They got a system for checkout. They got a system for
Placement of the products.
For making you want to buy this at this
Make
point.
you walk back for the milk.
build systems,
Yes.
right? That's it. And the non-smart people don't build systems. So there's people who are making things happen and there's people who are wondering what's happening. And you get to choose which one you want to be, period.
You either build the system or you get fucked by the system.
You either build the system or you can plug into a system that's already been figured out, and you could save yourself a lot of time and a lot of money.
Well, that's the thing that I like to do, right? Like I like to go find the person that has the success that can show me the way that I can go and study underneath. And here's the thing, like I recently signed up for this thing. It was $10,000 and it's like, oh, we give you a money back guarantee on the 10 G's, blah, 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 blah. If you don't find value, I was like, all right, cool. So I get the thing back and I'm going through it and I'm like, I'm good with the $10,000, right? Like I could have went either way if I was like a shyster or a jerk, you know? Yeah, because he's like looking, I could see he's waiting for me, you know. And I'm like, dude, this is killer. Like it was a lot of work for him,
Right.
you know? Yeah. But my point of that is this: you can't put the responsibility on the other person that make you successful, right?
Yes.
I couldn't put the responsibility on that dude and be like, well, I don't know if that's going to work, so give me back, you know? I think it's going to work. I want it to freaking work, so I'm going to try to work it, you know?
And I love how you said, I never heard you say that before, of when you do that, you give away your power. You know,
100%.
Like you are now powerless and you are in victim. And there's nothing that infuriates me more than a victim. Like just
And he has several.
Jake's going to be on the CSI
Yeah,
episode
right?
next week. Nothing that infuriates me.
Megan Spray used to, because 100 has been a core value for a long time, and she used to say, if you were being a victim, she'd be like, turn your victim glasses upside down and turn them into accountability glasses.
I love that.
And so
Because that's the thing. Anytime you go into that mode, like you're powerless, and it's a shitty place to be. Who wants to be powerless? Raise your hand, right? But no thanks. I'd rather be able to do something about it. What can I control? Control your controllables, right? Yeah.
Yep.